The story begins in April 2032 at a school known as Valkyrie National School. The school principal appears on a large screen. He then announces an entrance test that will determine class placement, explaining that this initial test, a real combat exercise conducted annually for new students, will require them to defeat goblins. In that moment, the students, dressed in their official uniforms and each holding a unique weapon, eagerly prepare to enter their first combat test. From his office, the principal watches the events on a screen before him, announcing that the test will be broadcast live and inviting supporting citizens to participate by voting and assessing the action. Comments begin to appear on the principal's screen, with some expressing admiration for the students' strength, noting that students from this school are always powerful. Others praise the prestigious school's commitment to excellence, while some ask if the school has allowed high school girls to practice sword fighting this year. In his office, the principal addresses the students again, indicating that the test results will significantly impact their future. He urges them to give their best effort, as only the exceptional and strong will advance to the top-tier classes in the school's ranking. At the test site, goblins appear as the creatures the students are supposed to fight, in an arena resembling a mythical forest. The students launch their attacks on the goblins with enthusiasm and intensity, capturing the spirit of competition. Back in the principal's office, more comments stream in, with some viewers asking about something called the essence, and whether it has wind energy or could be used to increase speed, hinting at a concept that will be revealed later. Other comments note that the students' power level seems lower than usual this year, with some saying certain weapons look especially painful to use. The screen shows a female student fighting a goblin, prompting the audience to comment on her performance. Some viewers call her a beautiful fighter, with some even expressing a desire to join the school out of admiration for her, while others regard her as strong and wonder about her distinctive essence, which covers both close and distant ranges, wishing they could possess a similar power. In another scene, a different female student makes a high leap, landing her weapon on a goblin. The audience reacts with admiration for her strength and daring, noting her impressive skill in wielding a large spear despite her small frame, which has earned the crowd's respect. In the end, the audience discusses their votes, torn between admiring the beautiful or the cute girl and finding it difficult to choose. Some advocate voting responsibly rather than solely based on appearance, considering that the school's funding comes from citizens' taxes. At this school, strength is the ultimate measure of excellence among students, with the strongest students having the chance to secure wealth and fame, even during their school years. This is evident in the attention given to the two girls who demonstrated their power in the test. However, suddenly, a loud noise resounds, prompting the audience to wonder about its source and demand that the camera reveal its origin. Quickly, drone cameras in the air track down the source, arriving at the scene where they spot a student standing before one of the goblins. The crowd notices that this student is not wearing the school uniform, leading to questions in the comments about his unusual attire and the absence of an apparent essence. Some mockingly suggest that his simple outfit might be his essence, considering him weak and unworthy of staying at the school. The situation intensifies as the goblin begins to land powerful strikes on the student, prompting the viewers to mock him, questioning how a student in such a prestigious school could be beaten by a weak creature like that, and even wondering how he was admitted in the first place. Among the comments, however, a few voices admire his determination to keep fighting despite his apparent weakness. The student grabs a nearby tree branch to continue his resistance. Then, something even stranger occurs. A strong electric shock runs through the branch, causing him to scream in pain before the audience, who laugh louder, wondering how he got shocked by a tree branch. As the student recoils, a small screen by his hand displays a message indicating that he's wearing a beginner's suit, which restricts his ability to use weapons. The goblin stands before the student, gripping its club, preparing to strike again with a mocking smile. The student is hit repeatedly until he collapses, motionless, on the ground, drawing sympathy from the viewers, who call for medical attention, fearing he might be seriously hurt or even close to death. However, to their surprise, the student rises once more, prompting an outpouring of support and votes in admiration of his resilience and endurance. Then, another twist unfolds as the student's suit suddenly disappears, revealing that this inexpensive outfit was, in fact, his essence all along. The audience's laughter intensifies at the sight, with some criticizing him as undeserving of support funded by their taxes. The student later narrates that the test broadcast spread nationwide, marking him as one of the lowest-ranking students in the school and that he began his academic journey in this way, wearing a modest beginner's suit. Afterward, student ID cards are displayed, showing students' names, years, and class placements. The two admired girls are placed in the top class, A, while this student, named Hinata, is assigned to the lowest class, E. Hinata begins recounting the events of the War of the Otherworld, explaining that humanity awoke one day to find monsters spreading everywhere, threatening people's lives. Within a few years, the world was on the brink of collapse. He recalls his childhood memories of watching people suffer and the widespread devastation, noting how most weapons at that time were incapable of harming or even resisting these monsters. Humanity faced complete helplessness, with no option but to await certain death. Amidst this dire situation, a glimmer of hope emerged. The essence. Hinata explains that an essence forms when someone connects with materials from the other world, revealing a part of their soul through it. An essence could be a weapon, an ordinary tool, or even a special stone. He mentions that his father possessed a shield-type essence, which he used to protect people, often appearing in televised broadcasts that Hinata watched in admiration, seeing him as a role model. But Hinata recalls a painful moment when his father, battling a monster, instructed him to take Shizuko and flee, urging him to grow strong enough to protect everyone. His father died soon after. Honoring his father's last words, Hinata took Shizuko and left. He reveals that the feeling of helplessness from that day remains etched in his heart, driving him to train relentlessly, as if his entire life depended on this goal to become stronger, just as his father had encouraged. Hinata then states that it has been 6 months since he joined the warrior training school. But recently, he discovered something he hadn't known before. The scene shifts to the classroom, where Hinata confronts 2 of his classmates, one of whom is heavily built and demands his submission. Hinata is shown lying on the ground, bruised from a harsh beating, while the bully orders him to buy bread and milk. The bully pours milk on him, mocking Hinata as he endures the humiliation and blows without fulfilling their demands. Hinata continues discussing a lesson he learned. Hard work and effort do not always guarantee good results. The bully then places a paper on Hinata's back labeled Hero's Back, threatening him with death if he returns without it intact. Hinata walks through the students, who laugh at him, recalling his appearance during the initial test in that cheap suit. Daily, he endures beatings and constant ridicule. At that moment, Shizuko, the girl who shone during the first combat test, quietly passes by Hinata. Sadness appears on her face as another student watches in awe, expressing admiration for Shizuko, Hinata's longtime friend, whom he knew before they became aware of the world around them. Hinata explains that Shizuko lost her father on the same day he lost his, and since then, they had become close friends, supporting each other unconditionally. Hinata then expresses his sadness over the change in his relationship with Shizuko after joining the school, noting that it's only natural. Shizuko has become an outstanding student with a powerful essence, while he remains a student with no achievements to his name and an ineffective essence. He speaks of how he has grown accustomed to the disdainful looks surrounding him, reflecting on his situation until a shoe is thrown at his head. Turning around, he finds the bully who previously beat him, accompanied by another classmate from earlier. The bully, Takayuki, mocks him for being too slow, reminding him to hurry up and buy the bread, while the companion intervenes, asking Takayuki not to throw his shoe like that. Takayuki orders him to pick it up himself. At that moment, Hinata observes his other classmates and describes his class, known as E, comprised of students with poor performance and bleak futures. The class lacks motivation to the point where teachers show no interest in it, dubbing it the forgotten class. Hinata's thoughts are interrupted as Takayuki yells, asking what he's staring at, demanding an answer as he prepares to strike him again, this time wearing an iron glove, his essence, and delivering a powerful blow to Hinata's stomach. Hinata narrates that essence use is restricted to certain areas, but Takayuki and his followers disregard school rules. Takayuki then issues a threat to Hinata, warning him against angering him again. Hinata reveals that even in the worst class at school, he ranks as the lowest among his peers, enduring beatings repeatedly for half a year. The boy accompanying Takayuki mocks, saying the bread Hinata brought must be stale by now from all the waiting. Takayuki laughs scornfully, placing his foot on Hinata's back as the bread lies scattered on the ground. Continuing his mockery, Takayuki claims he's doing Hinata a favor by beating him more, while 2 girls in the class watch the scene, commenting on how this happens daily, wondering why Takayuki hates Hinata so much. One of them explains that Takayuki ended up in Class E because of Hinata. She elaborates that after the initial test, Takayuki engaged in a mock battle to evaluate his essence, while Hinata displayed unexpected resilience, resulting in a poor evaluation for Takayuki since he couldn't finish Hinata with a decisive move. The other girl adds, laughing, that Hinata's persistence is surprising, though she jokes he should tone down his foolishness as he still gets beaten every day. Throughout this conversation, Takayuki continues hitting Hinata, demanding he acknowledge his place. At this moment, Hinata's endurance gauge rises, reaching 9,990 out of 10,000. With each blow, the gauge increases further, eventually hitting 9,998 before Hinata collapses again. Takayuki stands over him, questioning the arrogant look on Hinata's face despite being weak and possessing a useless essence, assuming it's an inherited trait from his family. Takayuki continues mocking Hinata, sneering at his family and their essences, and threatening that if he knew them, he would treat them just as brutally. Hinata feels anger rise within him at this insult to his family, but Takayuki arrogantly dares him to fight back if he has the courage. At that moment, Takayuki's sidekick tries to calm him down, but Takayuki snaps at him, questioning if he's defending that loser. The other student nervously denies any concern for Hinata, prompting Takayuki to command him to hit Hinata as well, pointing to a chair to use as a weapon, causing Hinata's endurance gauge to rise to 9,999. Takayuki then orders his companion to gather the bread from the floor, while Hinata remains on the ground, feeling his own weakness. He silently acknowledges that despite 10 years of continuous training, there's no guarantee his efforts will pay off. But then, something shifts. Hinata's endurance gauge hits its limit, fulfilling the requirement to upgrade his essence, the beginner's suit. He now has the option to evolve it into the unbreakable suit. Hinata tells himself that if his previous efforts haven't paid off, he'll keep learning until he achieves his desired result, as he doesn't understand the meaning of surrender. He reveals that he discovered the secret of his suit about 6 months ago, right after the level assessment test. Hinata recalls being in the school's basement training area then. The result of that assessment, where he was beaten before everyone, nearly led to his expulsion due to his lack of distinctive abilities. Such is the nature of Valkyrie Academy, where underperforming students are expelled mercilessly, given that the school is taxpayer-funded. He explains that most students attending this school are individuals who cannot access resources without government support, and he is one of them, so he couldn't bear the thought of being expelled. He realized that sacred essences could evolve over time. The more they're used, the stronger they become. But his challenge was his uncertainty about the unique ability of his own essence. He remembers standing during the goblin combat test, debating whether to fight the goblins without the suit, or to attempt developing his essence by enduring damage. He resolved that the only way to achieve his goal was to withstand the most extreme punishment while wearing the suit, enduring electric shocks and heavy blows from the goblins. He also discovered that the beginner's suit prevented him from using weapons. Despite the challenges, Hinata refused to give up and continued to push himself until he defeated the goblin on his own, without his essence's help. But he realized that relying on this method was too dangerous to repeat. After his victory over the goblin, he found a small magical stone on the ground and felt disappointed that all his efforts had earned him was this tiny stone. But suddenly, the stone disappeared, and a notification appeared on his screen, informing him that the first magical stone had been absorbed, and the unbreakable suit had responded. More notifications followed, announcing the activation of new features in the suit, and Hinata understood what he needed to do. Since that day, Hinata spent half a year intentionally enduring beatings to strengthen the suit. After the events at school, Hinata returns to the student dormitory and examines the beginner's suit, telling himself it's time for the upgrade. He verifies that he's achieved the required damage level, 10,000 out of 10,000, qualifying him to evolve the suit to the unbreakable suit. However, he's unsure how to activate the upgrade. As he wonders aloud, the suit automatically initiates a search for the upgrade command. The suit detects that voice commands can only be activated by the owner, and he learns that the required keyword is upgrade. The moment Hinata utters the keyword, the suit begins emitting electric sparks across his body, transforming into the indomitable, unbreakable suit, though he notices a slight change in its appearance. Curious about the effect of this transformation on its performance, a screen appears before him, displaying detailed statistics. Defense, 14, intelligence, 0, endurance, 18, and physical strength, 11, along with additional skills and equipment efficiency. Hinata feels confused, as this is the first time he's seen a screen like this. More information appears about the suit, identifying it as the unbreakable suit, which grants strong protection and growth blessings to its wearer. When he asks about the meaning of these blessings, the suit responds, indicating that it likely means a significant increase in defense power. Hinata wonders if the training arena is still open and decides to go there to test his upgraded suit's capabilities. The scene shifts to the school basement, where the training area is located. A goblin stands ready with its club, prepared to challenge students who come for practice. Shizuko, the distinguished student and Hinata's old friend, is also training there, effortlessly defeating every goblin she encounters, remarking that these targets no longer provide her with a challenge. Shortly after, she notices Hinata entering the training area. Observing him quietly, she is joined by a friend carrying a spear, who asks what she's looking at. Shizuko responds that she's not watching anything in particular. Her friend, noticing Hinata, laughs and recalls the incident that happened to him during the entrance test. Shizuko replies coldly, suggesting that if her friend enjoys laughing so much, she should consider a career in entertainment rather than training. Her friend asks if she's angry, and Shizuko replies that she's merely bored of the topic, adding that whenever she places expectations on someone, she ends up disappointed. The friend notices a slight change in Hinata's suit, but isn't sure if it has truly transformed. At that moment, Hinata stands before a goblin, which raises its club to attack him. Hinata successfully blocks the strike with his hands, confirming that the suit's defense has indeed increased, feeling only a slight pain, and realizing that the suit allows him to endure more and advance. Encouraged, Hinata delivers a powerful uppercut to the goblin's chin, lifting it into the air and causing it considerable pain. However, the goblin quickly grabs Hinata by the head, slamming him to the ground and striking him again with the club. Hinata realizes that while the upgrade has improved his endurance, it alone won't guarantee victory, prompting him to try again. Looking around, he notices 4 goblins have surrounded him, surprised at how they approached without him noticing. Realizing the real danger he's in, he understands that his life could be at risk with this number of opponents. He attempts to flee but finds himself trapped, and he begins calling for help. At that moment, he remembers his father's words from childhood, advising him not to rely on others constantly, and to become strong enough to depend on himself during crises. Hinata snaps out of his memories, finding the goblins still attacking him, one grabbing his arm while another strikes his shoulder with its club. Recalling his father's advice, he resolves to rely on himself, grabbing the goblin's club on his shoulder. A new message appears in his suit settings, indicating that as a beginner, he is unable to use weapons, and equipment is unavailable. However, the suit emits electric sparks, similar to those during the entrance test, giving him an advantage over the goblins, whose endurance is far lower than his. Hinata manages to break free and escape, while one of the goblins falls from the electric shock. As Hinata runs, he realizes that it's not just about his endurance, but also about his duty to keep going and face challenges. A notification appears on his screen, announcing that Hinata's resilient spirit has synchronized with the fire-resistant frequencies of his suit, granting him a new skill called Vengeance. The screen explains that this skill converts accumulated damage into immense power, which is unleashed for 10 seconds and can be used once per day after taking damage. Hinata decides to activate the skill immediately, saying the word vengeance as he charges at the goblins. For 10 seconds, he strikes them one by one without stopping until he defeats them all, finally collapsing to the ground in exhaustion. A new notification indicates that he's used up his vengeance skill for the day, making him realize that it's a trump card he can only use in critical moments, with specific conditions that require him to take damage first. Hinata understands that he may face similar battles in the future, and that he can't rely solely on vengeance. He needs a deeper understanding of his sacred essence. But he's interrupted from his thoughts when he notices a new magical stone appearing as a reward for defeating the goblins. The suit emits a sound, displaying a notification stating that the unbreakable suit has absorbed a magical stone for the first time, unlocking new functionalities. An update list appears on the screen: increased durability, ability to wield weapons and shields, enhanced willpower, proficiency with swords and blunt weapons, and improved physical capabilities. Hinata feels overwhelming joy at his newfound ability to continue strengthening himself. A week later, Hinata appears notably stronger. He surprises a goblin from above, using the Vengeance skill, and after defeating it, he earns another magical stone. Although the battle was challenging, a notification appears on the screen stating that he has met the achievement condition for defeating the goblin on his first attempt, granting him a new upgrade. The reward for his achievement is displayed on the screen, including mastery of heavy weapons, swordsmanship expertise, advanced punching skills, the skill Resilience, and a shield protection skill. Hinata feels immense happiness, realizing that his efforts were worthwhile, and thrilled that he can now use weapons effectively while wearing the suit. He notices additional details on the screen, and marvels at how his essence has evolved since unlocking the upgrade list, especially in terms of endurance. He reviews the achievements he's earned, seeing that he's defeated 10 goblin soldiers and 1 large goblin. Opening the list of conditions he needs to meet for further suit upgrades, he discovers that most requirements involve hunting monsters. Upon meeting these conditions, new powers are automatically activated in the suit, and he finds he's acquired the shock resistance skill, a defensive ability, as expected. However, Hinata feels slightly disappointed, realizing that his only offensive skill is Vengeance, which, while powerful, remains difficult to use. He understands he needs more upgrades to gain new offensive skills, but is unsure how to start or what to do to achieve this. He He recalls that the upgrade list wasn't open when he gained Vengeance, yet he managed to acquire and activate it regardless. He wonders if the mana crystal absorbed by the suit was the catalyst, and remembers that the message back then mentioned a reaction between the suit and his resilient spirit. This leads him to wonder if it might be connected to his mental state or the emotions he felt at that time. The scene shifts to a large hospital building, where Hinata visits a young girl who brightens at the sight of him. He asks if he can sit with her for a while, and she happily responds, saying she feels much better today, mentioning she's getting stronger and closer to leaving the hospital. Hinata reassures her that she does look stronger. Then she pulls the curtain beside her and asks if he thinks her mother looks better today. He replies that her mother seems fine, while Hinata narrates that her mother has been in a coma since an incident 10 years ago, having contracted a disease known as crystal sickness, transmitted through monster venom and still without a cure. Hinata goes on to explain that his little sister, Hikari, was also affected by the venom, but thanks to their mother's sacrifice to protect her, Hikari suffered only mild effects and is now gradually recovering. Doctors predict she may be able to leave the hospital by next year. However, Hinata feels a growing worry about their future challenges, which is interrupted by the arrival of another person. Hikari's face lights up as she calls him Mr. Genji. Genji enters with a smile, greeting her and noting how great she looks today. Mr. Genji takes out a gift and presents it to Hikari, congratulating her on her improving health. Hikari thanks him joyfully, then Genji turns to Hinata, noting it's been a while since they last met, and saying his timing is perfect as he has something important to discuss with him. They step out of the room, and as Hinata stands by the window, Genji goes to get a drink, asking Hinata about his answer regarding the long-standing offer. Hinata explains that Genji is the leader of the Phoenix Guild, one of the guilds established to combat monsters. Genji elaborates that if Hinata wants to take care of his sick sister and stay close to his mother, who needs constant medical attention, he'll need a substantial amount of money. Hinata adds that his father used to work with the Phoenix Guild before he passed away. Genji, trying to push further, asks if Hinata doesn't want to find a cure for his mother. But Hinata knows Genji's true intentions and understands that his goal isn't genuine help. He explains that the crystals forming on the bodies of crystal sickness patients, like his mother, have properties similar to mana crystals, a new energy source for humanity. Driven by greed, the guild is secretly studying the disease, exploiting these patients and selling them at exorbitant prices, attempting to understand if humans could be transformed into permanent energy sources. Genji asks Hinata to hand over his mother to be used as a test subject, feigning an intention to find a cure. Snapping back to the present, Hinata firmly rejects Genji's offer. Yet, Genji persists, mentioning that the inheritance left by Hinata's father is nearly depleted, questioning how much longer Hinata can afford the hospital expenses. He tries to sway Hinata by saying that, with such a weak essence, Hinata will never earn enough to provide a decent life for his family. Nonetheless, Hinata resolutely refuses, asserting that he will do whatever it takes to protect his family, recalling the last promise he made to his father. Hinata asks Genji to refrain from bringing this up in front of his younger sister, just as he had requested before. Genji agrees, noting he wouldn't want Hikari to despise him. Before leaving, Genji leaves the door open for Hinata, saying he can reach out if he changes his mind. Hinata returns to his mother's and sister's room, determined to become strong enough to protect his family and take on his father's role. Hikari asks what Genji wanted to talk about, but he replies that it's a secret. Sitting down, he contemplates his need to join a strong team and earn enough to support his family. He sits beside his mother, deciding that he has to grow much stronger than he is now. In the next scene, Hinata is seen leaving the hospital, walking down the street. He checks his watch to confirm that the school gate is still open, reminding himself that now is not the time for rest and that he must abandon any notion of breaks or vacations. He has to keep pushing toward his goals. As Hinata walks down the street, he hears a cry for help coming from the roadside. Turning, he sees a group of students from his school harassing his classmate Akana from Class E. He overhears one of them telling her they want her to come with them and that they'll pay her. Hinata hesitates to intervene, deciding to continue on his way, thinking it's none of his business. Meanwhile, one of the students presses Akana further, telling her it's too late to refuse the money since their boss is already waiting. Akana replies that she doesn't understand what they're talking about, but they persist, insisting she's been involved in this job before. Akana holds her composure but feels compelled to push them away after one of them grabs her hand and threatens her. The others laugh at her as the student insists she has to come with them. Angered, Akana responds with a strong insult and spits in his face. The boy grows furious, grabbing her clothes and trying to forcibly drag her. She pushes him away and yells for him to back off, insisting she's never done anything like that before. Ignoring her protests, the boy reaches out to grab her again, only to be surprised by Hinata standing in front of him, holding his arm. Both the boy and Akana are stunned by Hinata's presence, and the boy asks who he is. Quickly realizing Hinata is wearing the school uniform and looks vaguely familiar, One of the girls in the group mentions that she knows him as the weak kid from Class E, while another points out he's the one who wore the strange suit during the entrance test. The boy who was harassing Akana remembers the incident and says he recognizes him from that demonstration. The boy tells Hinata to step aside, claiming he's busy with Akana, but Hinata remains firm. Growing angrier, the boy calls Hinata a pest from the weak class, questioning who he thinks he is to stand in his way. He raises his hand to strike, and Akana watches nervously, wondering how Hinata dares to challenge students from Class C, whom she knows are stronger than him. But Hinata surprises everyone by gripping the boy's arm tightly and kneeing him hard in the stomach, knocking him to the ground. He then brings his elbow down on the boy's back with a powerful blow, leaving Akana standing in astonishment. She can't believe that this is the same Hinata who's often bullied in Class E, now bravely facing and defeating those who tried to harass her. The scene shifts to the school's special training grounds, where students are honing their physical strength and combat techniques. A coach is seen encouraging one of the trainees to put more power into her moves. Then we see Shizuko on a boxing ring, training seriously and with enthusiasm. The coach, named Takashi, attacks her, but she surprises him with her strength and skillful moves, prompting him to acknowledge his defeat in the match and praise her abilities. Takashi thanks her for the performance, admitting he didn't expect such incredible combat skills from her, adding that he's heard her sacred essence is also unique and powerful. Shizuko replies that she constantly strives to improve her abilities, aiming to enhance her fighting skills because she has nothing else or anyone else to care for. Back in the side street, Hinata stands beside Akana, who remains in shock at his sudden display of strength and quick moves. She wonders how Hinata, who is usually seen as weak and suffers daily humiliation at school, could be so powerful. At that moment, another boy from the group charges at Hinata in anger, but Hinata swiftly catches and throws him to the ground. A third boy tries to grab him from behind, but Hinata easily escapes his hold and lands a strong blow, further impressing Akana. Akana begins to realize that Hinata possesses significant physical strength and only appears weak at school due to the essences used by his classmates. Without these essences, Hinata shows real power. After taking them all down, Hinata asks if anyone else wants to attack. At that moment, the first boy Hinata struck decides to use his essence, a cannon-like device, to hit him with a powerful blast. The boy activates his essence, firing a strong beam toward Hinata, who manages to block it with his hands. Although the force pushes him back a few steps, he remains unscathed, surprising the boy, who thinks he must have misfired. A crowd gathers, hearing the commotion. One person mentions they saw someone using their essence and suggests calling the police since using essences on the street is prohibited. The girls in the group urge their friend to escape before the police arrive, and they all flee, vowing to get revenge on Hinata. After they leave, Hinata looks at his hand, which took the cannon's blow, and notices it's entirely unharmed. Akana approaches him, concerned, and asks if he's okay after taking such a direct hit. Hinata assures her he's perfectly fine, thinking perhaps the hit landed on a strong part of his body, which is why he didn't feel any damage. As he prepares to leave, Akana asks him to wait, and wonders if he's curious about why she was caught up in that trouble. Hinata responds by asking if she wants him to ask, to which she replies no, and he assures her he won't. He adds that everyone has things they prefer not to discuss with others. Akana then asks why he helped her, even though she'd never helped him before. Hinata notices a bouquet of flowers in her hand and asks if she's visiting someone in the hospital, advising her to go before visiting hour's end, then walks away. Akana stands there, realizing she'd always viewed Hinata as weak for not standing up for himself at school, but now she sees a respectful and kind side to him that she never expected. The next day at school, Hinata is surprised when Akana places her hand on his shoulder, greeting him warmly and gratefully, thanking him for what he did for her the previous day. Suddenly, one of the boys Hinata fought the day before, the one with the cannon essence, appears, aiming his cannon directly at Hinata's head and firing, sending Hinata to the ground. 3 more of his classmates join the cannon-wielding boy, promising revenge for yesterday's incident. One of Akana's friends witnesses the scene and asks her what Hinata did to deserve this, while Akana decides to step in, telling the group to deal with her instead of hurting Hinata. But the cannon-wielding boy dismisses her intervention, ordering her to back off and reminding her that they're on school grounds now, where they can do as they please. Hinata sits up on the ground, acknowledging that he's just a weak student from Class E, but the boy slaps him angrily, warning him not to compare himself to failures, like his classmates. In that moment, Hinata stands up and delivers a powerful punch to the boy. However, a second student intervenes, activating his essence to transform his arm into a massive mechanical hand, gripping Hinata's leg and lifting him into the air, daring him to show his own essence if he has one to defend himself. The boy with the cannon stands before Hinata, threatening to torment him every day until graduation. He's suddenly caught off guard by a strike to his neck. Akana stands firm in front of him, telling him that he looks pathetic and disgusting. One of Akana's friends urges her to stop, fearing the bully's reaction. The cannon-wielding boy turns to Akana in shock, mocking her for her sacred essence, which compresses and releases air, sneering that its power is nowhere near his cannon's strength. He taunts her, asking if she'd like a lesson in the difference between them. The cannon-wielding student fires a powerful shot that hits Hinata squarely in the stomach, sending him flying 2 meters back. Akana shouts in protest at the violent move, but the boy mocks her, saying it was just a light hit, hardly worth her reaction. As she continues to shout at him, Takayuki and his sidekick arrive and see Hinata on the ground. Hinata quickly gets up, surprised that he feels no pain from the blow, just like the previous day, even though he isn't wearing his indomitable suit. Hinata begins to wonder if the phrase, "the suit aids growth," means that it's actually he himself who is growing stronger, not just the suit, and that the upgrades appearing on his system screen reflect his personal development. The cannon student sees Hinata standing without a scratch and assumes his shot wasn't powerful enough this time. At that moment, Hinata activates his vengeance skill and steps forward with steady resolve, determined not to remain the weakest anymore. He charges at the student with the mechanical hand, delivering a powerful blow that sends him crashing into the wall behind him, leaving everyone stunned. The cannon student is shocked, knowing the strength of his friend's mechanical arm, which can withstand even a rhinoceros, and doesn't understand how Hinata overpowered it. The injured student reassures his friends that he's fine, explaining that he was merely caught off guard. Temporarily convinced, the cannon student assumes that his shot didn't affect Hinata simply due to poor aim. Meanwhile, Hinata analyzes the situation and realizes that the vengeance skill wasn't enough to deliver a decisive blow, as the pain he'd taken hadn't been intense enough. He ponders his options, knowing he's exhausted the skill and lacks a strong enough move to end the fight, but he's resolved not to endure further daily humiliation. Just as he prepares to attack again, a school administrator enters, ordering everyone to return to their classes and stop causing trouble so early in the day. The Class C students are frustrated by the abrupt end to the fight, while Akana feels relieved that the confrontation has stopped, and her friend looks on with an unreadable expression. After the administrator leaves, Takayuki turns to his sidekick and assures him there's nothing to worry about, sneering that a worm writhes when it's stepped on, just like Hinata did. He vows to hit Hinata hard enough next time to ensure he won't try to fight back again, then walks away laughing. His sidekick, however, glances thoughtfully at Hinata, realizing that what happened was more than just a worm's reaction. He knows the strength of his friend's mechanical hand and understands it isn't something easily countered. As he follows Takayuki, his eyes remain on Hinata, who stands beside the teacher, wondering if Hinata has truly grown stronger than before. During lunch, while most students head to the cafeteria, Hinata sits alone in the restroom, opening the system screen and reflecting on his discovery. He now understands that the abilities and upgrades he once thought belonged to the suit are actually his own, and he grows stronger with each challenge, meaning he can activate and utilize these abilities without wearing the suit. He considers the advantage this offers during surprise attacks, though he remains concerned about his lack of offensive power and his need for decisive fighting techniques. As he exits the restroom, he finds Takayuki and his sidekick waiting outside. Takayuki sneers arrogantly, telling Hinata he should let him know if he needs to use the restroom in the future. Placing a hand on Hinata's shoulder, he mocks him for the bold move he pulled with the Class C students that morning. Activating his essence, Takayuki lands a solid punch to Hinata's stomach, ordering him to go to the cafeteria and bring him his lunch. Takayuki's sidekick observes this scene, sensing something unusual. Despite the powerful punch, Hinata stands unfazed, unlike in the past. This realization makes him suspect that Hinata may be hiding something. Meanwhile, Hinata considers retaliating against Takayuki, but realizes he can't use the vengeance skill again, as it's limited to once per day. Reflecting that this newfound resilience might actually be his own ability, Hinata feels a surge of excitement to strike back, but is interrupted by Akana's arrival. She calls out to Takayuki, telling him to stop. Takayuki turns to her, surprised, and demands to know why she's there and what she wants. Akana calmly responds that she wasn't talking to him. She's there to speak with Hinata. Takayuki, taken aback, questions her, noting that he saw her standing up for Hinata in front of the Class C students that morning. He approaches her mockingly, asking if she plans to defend him again. Akana raises her voice, firmly telling him to stop, adding that she intends to speak with Hinata now. Standing up to him defiantly, she challenges him, asking if he wants to hit her too, pointing out that he doesn't seem to care whether he's bullying a boy or a girl anymore. Takayuki, angered and humiliated by her words, is forced to back off, taking his sidekick with him and leaving Hinata and Akana alone.